I bought Exxon Mobil stock for $48.85 back in February. That was before the world went into chaos. Of course, the energy sector has dropped lower, and now shares trade for about $36. I'm down roughly 26% on the position. It really doesn't feel good to see that much red in my personal portfolio. And the question I always have to ask myself, should I cut my losses and sell? For my short answer, no. My original thesis remains intact. In fact, it might be an even better buying opportunity. So if you want to gain exposure to fossil fuels, now might be a decent time. In this video, I'm going to show you why I originally bought a stake in Exxon Mobil. Of course, it's not a guaranteed win. Nothing is when it comes to investing. But I like the potential risk to reward going forward, even more so now. Now, before we dive in, I'd really appreciate it if you just tap the like button as well as subscribe. To start out, it's important to ask, why should I not invest in this sector and company? Well, the elephant in the room is the move to renewable energy. I'm really looking forward to a renewables only future, but I try to be a pragmatic investor. All of us will continue to benefit from fossil fuels. The energy you're using to watch this video, for example, it likely came from fossil fuels. The same is true for heating and cooling in your home, as well as much, much more. Overall, the use of fossil fuels has benefited billions of people around the world, and it's going to continue to do so. Of course, there are clear downsides, but I often find it ironic when people take such a strong stance against fossil fuels, and yet they still benefit from it every day. They could pay more to reduce their use of fossil fuels in their own lives, but they don't. It's really easy to call out a problem and tell others to use their money to fix it. Ultimately, it really comes down to cost effectiveness. And on that end, fossil fuels are going to continue to be a leader in most areas for very easily the next decade plus. Still, renewable energy production is growing. And once again, I think that's great. This chart from the EIA, it shows electricity generation projections for renewables, natural gas, nuclear, and coal. The EIA expects the share of renewables to double by the year 2050, so that's a ways out. And as a whole, total generation with this mix of fuels grows about 25%, very roughly. Also, natural gas continues to make a large piece of the total, largely unchanged from a percentage standpoint, but on a nominal base, it does grow a little. Even if renewables grow at slightly faster pace than projected here, the big oil companies should be able to pump out steady cash flows over the next few decades. It's been tough in the short term and even midterm, but oil supply and demand will balance out. A huge amount of supply has come online over the last decade, and that's really helped keep oil prices lower, which is a benefit for consumers, cheaper gas at the pump. But more recently, with more people working from home and travel restrictions, demand for oil has dropped. This has added even more downward pressure to fuel prices. As a result, this will lead to more bankruptcies, and the super majors like Exxon Mobil are seeing some financial stress. Exxon has reported 3 quarters in a row of small losses. That's based on net income, and the company has also taken on an extra roughly $10 billion in debt. Although with a great investment credit grade rating of AA+, and our super low interest rates today, I'm really not worried that much about that. The leverage ratios really aren't too concerning. Exxon still has a healthy balance sheet, but the dividend doesn't look as safe anymore. There's a higher chance of a dividend cut. And to be honest, management could likely put those funds to better use, like picking up some fire sale deals that result from this wave of coming bankruptcies. Overall, Exxon Mobil won't be disappearing anytime soon. It's still a strong leader in the energy industry, and fossil fuels will continue to make up a large piece of energy production over the next few decades. Investors have really beaten down Exxon Mobil stock, and I believe that's only partially justified due to the short-term shock in 2020. I think the stock is in oversold territory and the risk to reward looks pretty good going forward. I've even been considering doubling down, but I'm not willing to put that much money into fossil fuels. I still need to diversify to be able to sleep well at night. The position might not work out. You never know. On top of that, I'm not automatically reinvesting dividends. Instead, I let them pool up and then invest into other good opportunities that I find. If you'd like to find out when and where I'm investing, feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, I'd really appreciate it if you just tap that like button as well. And as always, feel free to drop any comments or questions down below. I'd love to hear from you. Are you investing in fossil fuels, or are you completely staying away from them?